The next batter is Cespedes. We play in Cuba. Okay, and I turned to my we have a guy by the name of Nick Ramirez. Now Nick Ramirez is pitching in the big leagues. I just saw him pitch last night for the Yankees. 87, 88,
Yeah.
lefty, turns the ball over, good changeup. And I turn to my manager and I go, "Hey Billy, let's get Barnes in this game now."
Matt
I'm going to
Barnes?
go with him. Let's get Barnes in this game.
Yeah.
No. And the third time I go, "Hey, let's get Barnes in the game." Ramirez throws the first pitch, and the next thing you see is the ball flying about 9 miles over the fence.
May 10th. Thank you, guys. Welcome to the Mound Visit podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of baseball and the stories that make it one of the most beloved sports in the world. And whether you're a diehard fan or new to the game, we invite you to join us as we chat with players, coaches, and we got Ed Blankmeyer, awesome coach, and experts in the field. And we delve into the history and the strategy and the culture of America's national pastime. So grab a seat, grab your coffee, maybe a hot dog, and let's take a Mound Visit here. We got Ed Blankmeyer on our show today. Blanky, thanks for joining us, man.
Jace, a pleasure. Pleasure to catch up.
Yes, sir.
This is a very special Mound Visit, I think. And I know Justin across from me is going to roll his eyes a little bit. But, Ed, I know you have had your hand in my beloved metropolitan organization, managing the Brooklyn Cyclones. So it's very cool to be able to talk to you. I know you've been able to coach and some of the players that I watch now, and then obviously the resume at St. John speaks for itself. So again, thank you so much for coming on, and we want to remind everyone to follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Top 100 Sports Network. You can follow the show Mound Visit right on there. Turn those notifications on, and you won't miss a single episode. But let's start out with. Let's start out with the state of baseball today, because this was something that people really like to hear on our old show, on our last episode when we talked with Scott Linebrink, and I had him and Grilli were talking about some of the newer rules that were coming into the game of baseball today, and I know some of them have actually made their way into the college game now. And I want to know kind of what you think about those rules and how you've had to adjust to them as a coach and how you've helped your players to adjust to those as well.
The new rules, I think, are good. The current rules that you see being used in Major League Baseball, speeding up the game, I think they got to tweak that a little bit. When I managed in Brooklyn, they were toying with the idea of the pickoff move a little bit. And then in that particular year, they tested stepping off and picking off. And Jason, I'm sure you really enjoy that, to see if that had any effect on the game. So instead of the typical pick off the first base, you had to disengage to pick a guy off. I don't think that worked all that well. I know when the shift was toyed with at that particular time, and I think the shift, the way they're handling it now, is much, much better than they did earlier, because you could just the left-handed batter was getting negated in this game.
Yeah.
I don't know, the big bases. I still question the big bases. Being a close play in the stolen base era, fine. I think we all agree the game got a little too slow, and my concern about the game, there's not enough action.
Yeah.
Too many strikeouts. And the thing that I get disturbed about, and they say they don't care about strikeouts. Well, I'm old school there. I think the strikeout, and just my experience in minor league baseball, when bases are loaded, I 3 times during the course of the 118 games I managed, we struck out 3 times in a row. And as a manager, you kind of pull your hair out, but you just put the ball in play, at least get a run.
Yeah.
But the game has to, the old timers, the people that watch the game, and my age group are maybe a little bit younger. The younger crowd needs activity. And if you don't provide activity and action in the game of baseball, we're going to lose a lot of the young kids coming up, not only playing the game, but being fans and appreciate the game as much as I do. But I think in most cases, what they're trying to do is good. I would like to see them kind of regulate, and Jason, you can attest to this, um, controlling the batter's box as a hitter versus controlling the rubber as a pitcher with that time clock. I think that's kind of unique, and I think people are trying to figure that thing out. Because I know when a guy's going hot as a pitcher, he wants to get the ball and go. And some pitchers they'll stall you to death. They'll hold the ball on you so long that, it kind of defied what the batter was trying to do. So the batter's job is to control the batter's box. The pitcher's job is to control the rubber and the timing of how he wants to attack the hitter. So, but I think, and for the most part, I think some of these changes are good. And the game has to change. We have to change this game a little bit.
Yeah. It's funny, Coach, players are different now. I have a feeling, and you've been doing this for a while, 25 plus years, and I think the reasons why, Case, we talked about the other sports too.
Yeah.
With Charlie, sports are making changes, at the top levels to intrigue fans to stay there and bring in new crop of different type of fans. But I also think that's a lot to do with the type of player, the youngsters that are out there now. They're different now. Is there anything that you can list or that you think of, or do you agree that these college athletes, even younger than that, it's a different type of kid, really, in terms of mentally or all that kind of stuff?
Listen, the kids nowadays are so much more talented, bigger, stronger, faster. The age of strength and conditioning and training, has just blossomed. The technology along with that has blossomed to improve the athlete. Where I think there is a disconnect is teaching the game the way it was played versus the way the analytics and the people in charge want it to be played now.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest compliment a player can get is when a coach or a fellow player would say that guy's a ball player. He's really a ball player. He's almost like a coach on the field. I think these kids nowadays are so one-dimensional that from a pitching standpoint, is it stuff or is it pitchability?
Mm-hmm.
And as a hitter, are you a hitter, or you're just one of these guys who's going to bat 180 and hit 22 bombs and knock in 60? Are you a hitter, or are you a pitcher? And I think that's really the disconnect is, and we're trying to figure that out, where you can utilize the information that's provided nowadays to make these guys better ball players, to be a more complete ball player, in this game. So that's where I really think we have to come together. And I think to answer that, really focusing on that question, I don't think the kids are that much different than they were in the old days. I think the information they're getting is changing them. I'm just talking about a hitter. To me, striking out was failing. In my day, okay, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was failure. Nowadays, it's accepted. They don't care whether you strike out. I mean, so how did that come about? Well, It's not the kid's fault. It's not the player's fault. It's what's been fed to them. And
why is that, Ed? Why is that? In terms of why do they not care that they struck out? I'm not following.
Well, why? Because status says they want you to do damage to the baseball, and striking out is not it's no big deal.
Well, I think
no big deal.
That's part of what they're trying to get away from in the game, I think, is that 3 true outcome. And I think that's what a lot of these new rules are trying to help with, at least limiting strikeouts, limiting walks, and staying away from the fact that the only way to get offense in the game is to hit the ball over the fence. And I think that that's what, like you talked about with limiting the shift, that's going to be huge for that, because, a line drive up the middle used to just be the shortstop or the second baseman is standing right there to catch it. And that's not.
That's as a pitcher. If somebody in Liney even said it in our last podcast, as a pitcher, I don't want my whole infield shifted on one side, especially as a reliever late in the game. If I'm going to get beat, I'm going to get beat away. Right. And that's my mentality. I'd rather get beat away, and it's harder with adrenaline going and everything. That's usually typically the game. But if I give a hit up the middle, and Blanky speak to the just when guys used to be recruited or even scouted, the 5-tool player, that's kind of out the window a little bit now, I guess, and maybe bringing back now that the shift. I want to see guys with range not playing behind second base. If I give a base hit up the middle, tip my cap. You deserve that hit. You almost took my face off and hit one where no one is. I mean, that's hitting, right? And if I threw one down the middle, you can either hit it over the damn wall, or you're driving it up the middle, driving an RBI in. To your point, it became predictable. And I could say, man, when my biggest anxiety as a pitcher was when we had to make a pitch, we had to hold base runners, and maybe there's a hit and run on or a bunt play on, some action, like we said, we're hoping to reinstitute back into the game. That's the action that was kind of missing for so long, because it was become a predictable game with walk, strikeout, home run.
Yeah, and to your point, velocity is a key, and now in the new game, if you will, and the guys are blowing it up there 98, 100 miles an hour. And they don't change their delivery. These guys are going 1.5, 1.6 to the plate.
Yeah.
And Jay, you play for me, man. Shit, it's all about me giving up things. 3 bases, defend the steal. Now, I'm not going to alter a pitcher's delivery time that much if I think it's going to affect his velocity or hurt him. But yet, I got to be able. You got to run him on first base. I don't want him taking second base every time. And it's one knock to get you in. And you take the double play out of the way. So now I think in the stolen base coming in is allowing the pitcher to really focus on his delivery from the stretch position, so that they can't take an easy base. But the negative thing about that rule is now with the 2 pickoff throws, and the third one you better pick them off, but they give you the base. And that to me is interesting. Because that's an element that doesn't, you can't defend the running game that well because of that.
Yeah, well, like I said, I remember it was at the Seton Hall days when, unfortunately, I didn't get to be under your tutelage for more than just that one year before you left for Seton Hall. But I do remember all the things that just made me think. You guys taught the game so well, Blanky, and with holding runners and clocks and everything, the whole education of the sport, and I felt like I went next level when I went from high school to Division I baseball to start, because I know that the gateway between the professionals, the level that really to me is college. What you guys teach in college, these college coaches are really contingent. The brand of baseball is contingent on what these guys are teaching at that level. In some respects, I went to Vanderbilt and to our buddy Scott Brown, who you did a lot. We'll get into him. He was on our show, but it was cool to see. I took my son down there to watch the game against UCLA, just to see them. They were going through bunt drills. They were going through a whole setup of things, because, like I said, they're thinking they're bringing back some of the elements that, hey, it's about winning ball games, and whatever it's going to take. That's why I love watching girls softball. They play it fundamentally like the game can be played. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and when you talk about playing the game, you're trying to teach these young men how to play the game. What you're seeing in professional baseball now, Jay, is that you're getting more and more college coaches, and there's a lot of college pitching coaches now that are major league pitching coaches. Mm-hmm. They come up with that whole fundamental thing. The old way of playing professional baseball was they would hire, and I'm not denigrating any of these professional players. They put the professional guys in the game that had played in the big leagues, but they knew they were big league players, but they weren't able to really
Explain it, right?
Coach.
Sure.
explain it to
Right.
the kids how to get better. And the other thing I really shook my head when I was in minor league ball is they really never taught team fundamentals. They didn't really value that as much. They let you play. They let you play. It's like you got to play yourself into learning the game. And their focus was one-on-one. What I mean by one-on-one was pitcher hitter. The other stuff, okay, we'll figure this stuff out. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I always wanted to spend time on a team fundamental because number one, it taught them how to play, but number two, it created some sort of camaraderie and some team where everything in this game is more individual. I'm working on my hitting. I'm working on my pitching.
Yeah.
You become isolated. But when the ball is thrown, okay, there's 8 other guys out there that have to do something.
Is that why I was curious because you brought it up? Is that why you chose to come back to coaching college baseball after managing the Cyclones?
No, well, I just wanted to put my, I thought I did what I could at St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
I was offered other opportunities. I was offered a lot of opportunities during my years at St. John's to go into professional baseball. The reason why I left St. John's was because I just had an itch. I wanted to maybe try this a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was brought in by the Van Wagenen regime,
Mm-hmm.
which that lasted 1 year. And so as Jake tell you, once the upper management changes, a lot of things do change.
Yeah.
If you're one of their guys, right? One of their guys.
Yeah, they're bringing everybody. All of a sudden, you see guys flying out the door for no reason, and guys coming in. But then I was asked to go with the Cubs, and I became the minor league field coordinator for about 2 months. And I said, gee, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So that's how I got out of it. And what I'm doing now is I'm just if a college coach calls me up, and even a high school coach calls me up, I'll go out and can you come watch us practice or watch us play and make any suggestions? So I'm kind of like consulting, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm doing that. And
Well, you've earned that, man. You are a guru. People who don't know you, Ed Blankmeyer, you're one of the top, especially in the Northeast. Guy who's obviously been asked on a national level with even Team USA and in the professional ranks. So, if our listeners don't know who Ed Blankmeyer is, do some digging you can Google him, and there's a long track record. That's why we have him on the show. I'm honored to have you back and just talk to you. Every time I talk to you, it's just great because we are a little bit old school, but I think some of that old school does need to be brought back. Not all of it. Like we said, the game needs to improve and just become a better product. The brand of baseball has kind of been a question mark. Even when steroids came into the mix, that was the brand that was accepted, and now we're talking analytics and all these things. Like it, don't like it, still a great game. And go back to we've just maybe lightened things up here. But give me some funny stories. I know there's so many in here. What's something that's happened recently to you that gave everybody a chuckle? That can be said here today. Is there anything that comes to mind?
You got to give me some time in that.
We could circle back if it doesn't stick out in your mind.
Yeah.
Well, it's maybe this will. I don't know if this might help jog the memory, but I've always wanted to ask too because you've had the opportunity to coach so many players, not only at the college level, but at the professional level, and now obviously doing some consulting, you probably get the chance to even see even more, even bigger of an age range of kids. And I want to ask, who are some of the more talented players that you've had the opportunity of coaching, and what do you remember about them that separated them? I think about for our younger listeners who want to know how to get to that next level. What was it about those players that separated them from the pack?
Well, since you're a Met fan, I had the pleasure to manage 3 guys that I think are going to be very good big league ball players. I'm a big Ronnie Mauricio fan.
Love it. Me too.
I'm a big Ronnie Mauricio fan, and to this day, I pounded the table to get this kid to move faster. And I don't know. Again, it's being a manager, I would like to have more input on. I always had to tell a person the good news or the bad news.
Mm-hmm.
But when I recommend to move, it almost sometimes went on two deaf ears, in my opinion. But who am I guess? But he went away last winter and had a great winter league, and he was the MVP of the Dominican Winter League. And he's starting to open eyes. I never seen a young man hit a baseball. It looks like a golf ball coming off the bat. That's how everybody talks about Alvarez's power.
Yeah,
this guy has more. He's got and from both sides no less.
Wow.
And then Alvarez is that was his first year of full season, and he came and played for me after a short stint in Port St. Lucie. And he's a very talented raw kid with he was number one prospect in baseball for a little bit, so he's getting his chance now, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see him catching better than I thought he would at this stage. But catching a major league pitcher is a lot easier than catching a single A pitcher that's darting balls all over the place, and And then the kid I really think is going to have a great big league career is Brett Baden, because he's grounded. My concern with Brett as early as could he get to the fastball in, and he's shown me that he's getting to the fastball in now instead of hitting a lot of 4.3s. Mm-hmm. So those guys are good. And then you've heard the story about Drew Maggi. If you follow that story, the kid from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I just had him at my house, actually. He was here the other night. We were just celebrating his big league story, man.
Oh, you should have mentioned my name, because Drew and I became close friends. I coached him on the national team.
Awesome.
Drew Maggi he's the kind of kid that you always pull for. Not the most talented, with a lot of guts. Very competitive kid, and he is a baseball player.
Yeah.
And the kind of kids, I guess, from a coaching standpoint, you want them to succeed. On that team, we had guys like Anthony Rendon, Garrett Cole, Sonny Gray, George Springer, Jackie Bradley Jr.
Not bad.
Couple guys.
So we had a pretty good cast of characters.
Just a couple guys.
Just an all-star team.
Did you bring home the gold then? With the?
Oh, this is a good. You like this story?
There we go.
Like this story. Here's the story. You want to laugh?
Yeah.
That game, I got a chance to meet Sada Arsenault.
Ooh.
Okay, that was the start of the game.
Wow.
So we're playing the game, and Maggi hits a home run. So it's 1-1. Garrett Cole was pitching. He's breaking bats. Had to pull him after the sixth inning. And then all of a sudden, the game gets tied, and they do the California tiebreaker. So you put runners on first and second. Okay. So you have a chance to choose how to do it. And then if you don't get it, you continue. It's a little different in Major League Baseball. Anyway, we get up with a visiting team. We scored 2 runs. And then, we're all pretty excited. Now they got to come up, and they bring the leadoff batter. They don't bunt. Okay, they try to bunt. The guy flies out. The next batter is Cespedes. We play in Cuba. Okay, and I turn to my we have a guy by the name of Nick Ramirez. Now Nick Ramirez is pitching in the big leagues. I just saw him pitch last night for the Yankees. 87, 88.
Yeah.
Lefty, turns the ball over, good changeup. And I turn to my manager and I go, "Hey Billy, let's get Barnes in this game now."
Matt Barnes.
I'm going to go with him. Let's get Barnes in this game.
Yeah.
No. And the third time I go, "Hey, let's get Barnes in the game." Ramirez throws the first pitch, and the next thing you see is the ball flying about 9 miles over the fence. Billy looks at me and goes, "I should have got Barnes." So we're in line. And here's Maggi, and I'm everybody, there's a ceremony, a gold medal, silver medal, and then Maggi wants to fight these guys. He wanted to pick a fight with some guys. So Billy Kinnenberg was the manager team to say, "Hey, Ed, we stand next to Maggi and calm him down." He was so pissed he lost.
Oh, wow.
He was fighting us.
It's Italian. He got the Italian blood. He was already.
Oh, yeah. He's a great kid. As you know, he's a great kid.
Yeah, no, like I said, just had him here. His mother and brother were here, and he was in town. A lot of Italian Italians here. They're embracing his story.
Nice.
Just never quit, I'd never say die. Like you said, that's something you can't teach. That drive, that is a separator with a lot of guys.
They can't measure it, as well as I do. There are guys that if you play with Jason in the big leagues that had the skill and talent but didn't have the heart drive, and that that's something I'm going to say it's God given. You can teach and you can help, but ultimately it's you got to stand alone. And the
Yeah.
toughest thing to do is to stand in that batter's box by yourself, or stand on that mound and compete.
Yeah, I still talk about some of the guys you probably recruited, even at Seton Hall. I go way back to that, and I won't mention names, but there were two guys that I remember distinctly that should have gotten a lot further with their talent, but they got caught up in college and wanted to be more on the fraternity brother side of things. Than
Yeah,
baseball was a fraternity, and I'm just so glad. Like I said, the team that I recruited or you put together in part was we had 13 guys my freshman year that played professional ball.
Wow.
And how we didn't win the Bees tournament, well, that was a whole different story that year. But yeah, just a kudos to you, man. Like I said, if you don't know who Ed Blankmeyer is, check him out. And I know you got some stories. We tied in Scott Brown, what you did for him and his career, and when you were looking for a pitching coach. I know we had talked about my good buddy there from Syracuse, and look where he's ended up. So obviously some tutelage from you, and he
yeah.
knows a little bit about baseball. I was so happy for him, and I know you got some Scott Brown stories. Another great story there.
Scotty, and he's a baseball player that was a pitcher that you played with him, through little league on up. Um, Not the best arm, but he could pitch,
Yep.
and he had the utmost confidence. And I think that that chip on his shoulder, the confidence that he had translated to him as a coach. He had tremendous feel. And the story, I'm sure Scott probably shared this story with you all the time because he breaks my walls all the time. That guy. Anyway, so I'm looking for a pitching coach now. Understand, years and years ago, I had $12,000 to use. I had a full-time assistant, which was unusual in the Northeast at that time to have a full-time assistant. So I was looking for a pitching coach. I had just lost my pitching coach, and his head coach he was working with at Cortland was Steve Owens, who was a friend of mine. He calls me up and he gives me this glowing report about Browning. I said, okay, well, I'll meet with him. So I'm over doing a camp at New York Tech, and he always reminds me of this. And I said, come on down. So he goes, well, what should I come in? I said, I don't give a shit. Come on, whatever you want to wear. Come on, I'm at a camp. You don't have to come so time. So he comes in, he was sitting in the press box, and he goes, what's my chances? I said, it's a 2-horse race, and you're the lead horse. So, every time he says that, but anyway, he takes the job. Thank God he takes the job because, he was able to take this job simply because his future wife, parents, she had a job in Garden City or the Mineola area. And so they had everything taken care of. He could take the $12,000. She was a teacher. And,
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
He wanted to coach. This kid was born to coach.
Wow.
He had a burning desire.
Wow.
He really, when he came, our program flipped. I have to give him a lot of credit. We've had some great players, one of which I'm sure you played against too, Anthony Barbaro, who passed away. That's that horrific story where he got killed by a drunk driver driving to his station in 9/11, the 9/11 ceremony. So, but he was very instrumental in developing him and a kid named Hanson, who should have been a long-time major leaguer, but got hurt. So, and obviously he's been very successful with a lot of pitches he's had at Vanderbilt this time.
That's
But
great.
Brownie's the best.
Yeah,
Brownie's the best.
we had we actually had a question from one of our viewers, and I think it's you've been coaching for so long, so this might be a tough one to answer, but they wanted to know is from Thomas Belge. He wants to know what your greatest accomplishment is as a coach. If you can even think of one. I'm sure it's tough to just think of one, but
I thought about that, Casey. I thought about that,
Yeah.
and really, when you think about a coaching career, Um, there's a lot of things that I did that I enjoyed and I thought was great. But to me, the greatest impact that I think I've had, or for me, my greatest enjoyment is what I've done or what I've been able to do for certain players.
Yeah.
It's my goal, and it's not, we want to win baseball games as coaches. That's what we're measured on, success.
Yeah.
That's basically the first thing you measure. But to me, success as a coach is how much you've impacted a person's life. And I've hoped I've impacted enough people's lives in a positive way where they've taken some of the life lessons on the baseball field that I've given them. And we talked all about it all the time when I used to meet with guys, and we used to meet at second base when I trained these guys, and we would talk about different things and the exchange on the road and conversations you had. If there was a couple things during the course of my coaching career that influenced them in a positive way, to me, that's the most important thing.
That's great.
To me, that's important. Some of the things I enjoyed personally, the championships are great. That's fine. My experience in 3 times experience with the USA Baseball and representing the country, that's great. And I was blessed to have coached my son for 4 years.
Yeah.
And now he's an assistant coach at Duke, and he's trying to become a coach.
That's awesome.
Carry
That's
on the
awesome.
legacy, man. No, Blanky, I got to tell you, like, you are so respected. And when we lost you, I know how hard it was, especially the upper class, Matt Morris and all the guys that I looked up to my freshman year. When we lost you, you had such an impact, obviously, on a lot of people's lives. And I could say that too. You're so well respected, and it's just it's just so cool to hear just your take and how much love and respect you have, not just for the game, but also the guys that you pass the baton and influence. Man, you definitely echoed that, and we got some of that from Scott Brown. I mean, he says all good things about you, man, and everybody I know. There's not one person that if you throw your name around, man, you're a legend and a dear friend to people who have gotten to be under your arm and wings in baseball. So it's very cool to be in your house, right behind you. I'm sure you're ready for some
Yeah.
frosted flakes and whatever you got to get yourself going today.
Hey, Ed, I kind of want to go the other way with the question. Obviously, you reflect back on all the great things that you've done and the championships and the athletes' lives that you touched. My question to you is, now that it's over, what is there anything that keeps you up at night? Maybe a loss that you took that you thought you should have won, or a championship you should have had, or is there something that's still? We're all competitors, right? We all have that one game that we think about, like, man, if I won that one.
I don't look at it like that. I mean, I missed the game. I missed the game.
Yeah.
When looking back, I missed the players.
The camaraderie, right?
I miss going to practice.
Yeah.
I miss competing in the games. What I don't miss, and some of the things that drove me out, is not in professional baseball. I have no qualms with it. I understood what I was getting myself into. In the college game nowadays, what disturbed me is I'm a man of my word. I shake your hand, and I recruited you, Jason. You know that. And when somebody says to me, "Hey, coach, I'm coming," to me that's worth more than the piece of paper that's written on.
Yeah.
This whole concept of recruiting process in college baseball or college athletics and decommitting and
And the portal and everything. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
The portal, all this. I understand that. And maybe I'm sounding like an old timer. I was in it for development of the kid.
Yeah.
If for some reason myself and the young man, it didn't work, I understand it. But if it's, I make a commitment to you, you make a commitment to me, that's fine. People are just jumping from one program to another. It's almost a model of professional sports nowadays.
It's free agency in collegiate sports, and it's money
It
driven.
is.
Yeah.
It's NIL driven. It's portal driven. It's me. It's not about we. And I just can't wrap my head around it. I understand. Again, that's changing. And if I can't embrace that, then I felt it was time for me to move on. I had three, and the reason
Spot
why I
on.
really made
Agree
that
with that.
change out of college baseball was because I lost 3 kids that decommitted on me in the summer for an SEC, 2 SECs, and 1 ACC school. So they, I was just saying. I told my wife, I got a couple more years of this. I'll see this cycle through, and then I'm gonna put my, I'm gonna do a couple of years of professional baseball and see where that takes me.
Yeah.
And that's why I got out of college athletics, because I don't like the direction it's going. I understand, let's take care of the student athlete. They earn the right to make some. I got all that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a separation eventually. It's the haves and have-nots. The guys that have it, they'll move forward with the lesser programs. They're gonna fall by the wayside.
Okay, who has the money and who doesn't?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
money talks, and it's and then there's some programs that will survive because they developed such a strong culture. You talked about Brownie and Corbin. Now, this guy's got a culture. These kids want to go there. They'll buy into that culture. But there's other schools that will buy you through a checkbook.
Yeah.
And then here you are as a coach in a lower Division I level, and you offer a scholarship to a young man, and all of a sudden that young man has a great year, and he says, I'm going to put myself in the portal because I want to play for a bigger school, or
Right.
I want to make some, I just...
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is.
It is a very slippery
I'm
slope.
sure we could even talk about that for another 45 minutes, but it's its own conversation. But Ed, I mean, we really thank you for your time, and we want to remind everyone before they head out to subscribe to the podcast. You could watch it on YouTube, Top 100 Sports Network. You could do the same thing if you just like to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give the show a follow, and you won't miss any of the episodes. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to
Ed.
come on
Absolutely.
Guys, I appreciate your
You're the
time.
best, Ed. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Hope to see you in person.
Stay well, baby.